It has to be a priority because just like everything in a budget, if it's a priority, you'll find a way to do it. You'll find local businesses that will donate to support. You'll find families within the community that have their kids going to the school or they go to the church that would gladly give of their time, talent, and treasure. If you need a general contractor, I guarantee somebody in your school, somebody in your church has a relationship to a general contractor who would likely donate or highly discount their rate to help out the school or the church that they go to. And I'm going to be pretty harsh, it comes down to laziness. Oh, we don't have the money, so we're not even going to try to do it. If it's a priority, you'll take it seriously. It's that simple.
We are running commercial free today, folks. This is a day that we've got to talk about gun violence. And I don't want to use the term gun violence because it isn't the gun that's walking out of a, storage shed and shooting people. But it is violence perpetrated by evil, by men who don't have a moral compass. Why is this happening and what do we do about it? See, there's the world as we'd like it to be, which is violence free. And there's the world as it is, which we continue to see day after day, week after week. So I've got this friend, Peter Johnson. He is with Archway Defense. What a great company. They are professionals in teaching corporations, schools, churches, universities, how to guard themselves, how to brace themselves for any kind of violence that may come along. Peter, he's a nationally recognized law enforcement trainer. He was with the Air Marshals. He's very blunt. This isn't going to be, touchy-feely. This is going to be direct. Why is it happening and what can we do about it? Peter Johnson is one of my favorite people. I think you're going to love hearing from him. And this is important today as we, again, see this trend that is very troubling. We don't charge you for these podcasts. We just love having you. So please hit that subscribe button, she said, and be with us for every episode. Peter Johnson is next. Peter, welcome. I hate these circumstances, and you and I connected yesterday in the wake of all of this shooting, and I thought you'd be the perfect guest to address all this morning. So thank you for the last minute adjustment to your schedule. So first we had the North Carolina, not a drive-by, but a boat-by shooting off of a boat going past a bar restaurant on the coast of North Carolina. And then the very next morning, we have this amazing, awful, horrific shooting and firebombing of a Mormon church in Michigan. And then you reached out. And what was going through your mind as you saw this just happening?
Yeah, it's, as always, thank you for having me on. I wish we could meet again when something bad didn't happen. But unfortunately, that's the nature of our business is... as you know, we've been watching the violence, specifically at faith-based, increase significantly over the past decade, which was one of the reasons of starting our company. But seeing a church attacked on a Sunday of innocent people going to profess their faith, again, I don't know how else to describe it other than pure evil. And as we've talked before, evil is real. It's sad. There's nothing else you can say about it. It's heartbreaking.
As you said, you in part in response to this faith-based violence. What do you think is behind this?
It's a multifaceted issue because, by the way, it's not just happening in the U.S. I believe Nigeria just had this year 7,000 Christians murdered at churches. We're seeing this throughout all of Africa. We're seeing churches being attacked throughout all of Europe. Even Canada has had an increase in faith-based attacks. The U.S. has certainly had an increase in faith-based attacks. Michigan, this is the second church that's been attacked in Michigan this year, just this year, in the same state. So there's obviously the concern of nihilism, godlessness. Those elements play into this, but this is far bigger than just the U.S. This issue is happening globally, and to draw a conclusion other than the persecution of innocent people at their houses of worship, I don't know what other conclusion you could draw knowing the information is happening globally.
Yeah. What we do know about the now deceased gunman in Michigan is that he had served, and it was, I believe, a Marine in Iraq. Someone posted to me yesterday, PTSD is real. This man also had a son with a very rare disease that he was suffering from. We are seeing, again, he's a white man, so people are going to say white man. In Nigeria, that is not the case of the violence, behind the violence. But we see that with both of these shooters in the last week or weekend, both white males. So people are going to go, white man, bad. I blame each individual shooter, not their identity. However, there seems to be a sign that men are in crisis. I'll just speak to here in America. Men seem to be in crisis, Peter. I don't know what to do about it, but are there some short-term answers? Because people who want to just overturn the Second Amendment are not going to see that tomorrow or next year. So we've got to do something that's realistic.
Yeah, and to the divisiveness that comes with this, everybody wants to play, it was this person, it was that person, it was this skin color, it was this item, a firearm, to your point. Second Amendment doesn't exist in Europe. It doesn't exist in Africa. And they're saying, and China, by the way, China's been persecuting Christians for decades. Nobody's paid attention to it. So the Second Amendment doesn't change anything there. The divisiveness on, oh, it was a white male, Charlie Kirk's attacker, right? White male. The horrific boat attack, using the vessel to gain access to that bar, or the vehicle being used to ram into the side of the church. We can look at the characteristics of the individual in a sense of, yeah, it was a white person, it was a black person, it was whatever. But it really comes down to an ideological tipping point and a psychological within nihilism. I think that's a huge issue that we're seeing around the country, is this concept of nihilism, that nothing matters, that there is no truth, there is no right, there is no wrong. It's simply my belief system. That if I choose, and I'm speaking theoretically, if I choose to go murder somebody, that's not right or wrong. That's simply me living my life. Well, the absurdity with that argument, with the destruction of the concept of the value of human life, is evil. And that is a discussion I think we should be focusing on, with the godlessness and the loss of value, the intrinsic value of human life.
Yeah. There was a great piece in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend about this, about men who had just had so little in their lives that they end up in these rabbit holes online or wherever and just spiraling down into this idea of anarchy and nihilism. And, I gotta believe that you must be in a certain place in your life. Your mindset, your heart, your soul are in a place that makes you vulnerable to these things. There can't be any other explanation for wanting to go down that rabbit hole and look for some meaning and then finding it in nihilism and anarchy. And a couple of these men that the author interviewed had pulled themselves out, had found a way out, had found that fantasy of, isolationism, living alone or living off the grid and then just, looking for meaning there wasn't fulfilling. And they managed to get themselves out and are trying to help other men. It's such a tough thing right now, because on the one hand, Peter, we're seeing this rise in a connection to religion, but also I certainly see a lot of people who are rejecting religion and saying that is the problem. And I don't know how to get my head around it. What do we do with that?
Yeah, it's the concept of, let's take Christianity, because the last two church attacks that happened in Michigan were obviously at Christian churches, or Christian-based churches. If you believe that Christianity, that teaches peace more than anything else, is the fundamental problem with the world, that tells you to live as a good person, to achieve a family, to live honorably. If that's the problem with our society, we have bigger problems. I mean, this is the concept of life has no value. I think this is unfortunately, a logical sequence of events when we degrade the value of life to the whims of the individual, and then give no purpose, or somebody has no purpose in life, no guiding principle. Without a guiding principle, without a concept of right and wrong, a fundamental belief in right and wrong above my perception or your perception that transcends us and our families and time, this is a unfortunately horrific logical sequence of events when you destroy that concept of right and wrong and guiding principles.
Let's get to what you do and what might be done in some of these cases. I am really getting tired of the argument that if you put an armed person at a school entrance or around on a school campus, then some 14-year-old might try to steal his gun and all hell's going to break loose. It seems to me we need protection at these soft targets, schools, churches. What do you recommend?
Unfortunately, Michigan is a tale of two cities. This year, we had one church attacked, which had armed security. We had one church attacked, and I believe there was someone interviewed, MSNBC reported, her just first name, Paula, if I'm not mistaken, said there was no security at this church. You have two churches in the same state, in the same year, both being attacked with similar methodologies, minus the arson piece. One had the ability to stop the threat before it got into the sanctuary or the place of worship for all the people coming there. You had one that didn't. It's simple. What blows my mind to this day is we protect our airports with guns. You know, as a former air marshal, we have guns all over the place in the aviation realm. We protect our stadiums. You've been to more stadiums than I have. There's guns protecting our stadiums. There's bomb dogs protecting our stadiums. Banks, our money is protected with guns. Even in transit, we have armored cars and armed guards moving our money. Our politicians are protected with guns. But somehow the thought of using that argument for schools and houses of worship is irrational. The cognitive dissonance on that, I don't see it. Guns are not, armed security is not the only piece of a safety security plan within a church or a school. It's one of the pieces. Just like you have fire extinguishers, just like you should have medical kits to stop a reasonable concern of somebody having a heart attack. That's why we have AEDs. You have stop the bleed kits. Outside of violence, in case a kid gets a significant wound by accident, that's why we have stop the bleed kits. So these concepts of mitigation we've been using in schools and churches, but somehow when you get to the conversation of the final piece of a security and safety plan, which is if somebody comes in with malevolence, with the purpose of killing innocent people, we don't want to have anything to do with the ability to mitigate that risk. And it's mitigate, there's no guarantee. But with Michigan, we saw a tale of two cities again. One church had it, one didn't. And the story is very different, unfortunately.
Here in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, the Annunciation Church, the gunman shot through the windows from the outside. Is there a methodology by which that could have been mitigated, do you think?
In the history of mankind, we have about 7,000 years of armed conflict in history that we can prove to weapons being used to kill other people. So we have about 7,000 years of history to pull from, and there's no one single way to keep everybody safe at all times. But there is a way to mitigate reasonable risks. I was just at a SWAT conference, I believe, in DC, and there's a new technology. It's a window laminate that is ballistically sound. So it can retrofit over glass. You put it on, and it will catch a certain number of bullets, which gives people those extra couple seconds to get out of harm's way. So the technology does exist. But even before that, there's security, or what we call CPTED, crime prevention through environmental design, which is if you have access to windows, putting up bushes and shrubs that won't give you access to that actual piece of glass. These concepts have been used in all over the country in government facilities, and they're very easy to find how to do this and how to do it, because budget, as we've talked about, budget's always a concern, how to do it on a low budget or a no budget.
We get to budget, and it's like, again, there's the question, what you we're protecting children, we're protecting human life. I know a church has a budget, I know schools have a budget, but don't you have to find a way? Now, people want the simple answer of saying, well, if you just take guns out of the equation, then we wouldn't have to worry about this. But in the short term, even for those who dream of that, that ain't happening. And it's probably not happening in the long term either. You and I both know that. So when you start talking about cost, I don't know. To me, the number one priority of any public office, of any public place, is to keep the people within it safe.
Correct. It's very simple. And the argument of cost always comes up, as it does with everything. But if you simply called out to if the school board, the principal, let's take education for a second. You're at a private school, maybe you don't have the funding that the public school system would have. If you called all of the parents together and said that we want to take this seriously, this is the cost, how can you help us? Regardless of the financial situation of each individual, they're going to give something if they believe that the mitigation or the plan in place to protect their kids at school is reasonable. Have that conversation. I get calls constantly from mothers saying, should I take my kids out of school because I don't feel comfortable that the school isn't doing anything for safety and security as it relates to these types of horrific attacks. My statement is, well, before you do that, go talk to them. Say, what do you need? How much does it cost to take this seriously? And let's see if we can go find that money. It has to be a priority, because just like everything in a budget, if it's a priority, you'll find a way to do it. You'll find local businesses that will donate to support. You'll find families within the community that have their kids going to the school, or they go to the church, that would gladly give of their time, talent, and treasure. If you need a general contractor, I guarantee somebody in your school, somebody in your church has a relationship to a general contractor who would likely donate or highly discount their rate to help out the school or the church that they go to. And I'm going to be pretty harsh, it comes down to laziness. Oh, we don't have the money, so we're not even going to try to do it. If it's a priority, you'll take it seriously. It's that simple.
And it simply must be a priority. Let me ask you about these. I think you and I have talked about this before, but I want to dabble in this again. These signs on businesses, guns banned on these premises, guns not allowed on these premises. I don't understand the reason for those. And it seems to me you just say, hey, come on in if you got a gun, because no one's firing back at you.
Yeah, so let's say you have that sign up in front of your business. The only people, if it is a legal sign, the only people that will abide by that are law-abiding citizens. A criminal or a psychopath hell-bent on killing innocent people, they're not going to really worry about the extra felony or extra misdemeanor or extra ticket they're going to get if they're planning on murdering people. So you're taking a law that has, let's say, and to my knowledge, outside of courthouses, maybe a courthouse, can't bring a gun in. Well, there's been attacks on courthouses. They're just adding one felony to their dozens of felonies they're doing already. It doesn't make any sense outside of we feel good, so we're going to do it. Then the liability piece, which I learned from the insurance side, if you put a sign up, again, not my opinion, the insurance side, if you put a sign up saying in a state that allows the lawful carry of a firearm for self-defense of yourself or others, and you say you're not allowed to carry in here, that law-abiding citizen like me will say, okay, I won't carry my gun in here because it's their right to say I can't carry in here. Well, now there is case law where they are now liable for your protection inside of there. So if you're thinking about putting a sign up or you have a sign in front of your shop, just second guess it, because are you willing to take on the legal burden of protecting myself, my family, my nieces and nephews? Heaven forbid a psychopath comes in. Or does it just make more sense to allow law-abiding citizens to defend themselves in your store? And that's a personal choice. Regardless of what they do, that's their choice.
What's the biggest going on? What are the biggest goings on at Archway Defense? What are people asking you for? What do the trends suggest to you? What's your biggest top line concern right now as it comes to defending against these evil-minded people?
So, a couple fronts. So we have the law enforcement side, which I'm going to leave right after this to go train with the SWAT team, and their focus is how do we get in that door faster? How do we stop the threat quicker to save lives? Everything is about speed and efficiency on the response. Then on the individual side, we have churches. I was just getting emails today of, I'll keep the church out of it, but a church getting threatening, a pattern of threatening correspondence from an individual, and it's escalating. So they're talking about how do we mitigate this. The biggest thing that I'm looking at is I was on a podcast with Sarah Adams. Actually, I should introduce you. She'd be a great guest for your show. But she was a former CIA officer. She was in Benghazi. And what I'm focused on right now is the concept of this homeland attack where 1,000 to 1,500 jihadis trained in Afghanistan, per the intelligence, came into the U.S. to do active shooter style attacks throughout the entire country in a very short amount of time. So we saw what happens with one individual, one motivated individual to kill innocent people in Michigan. What happens when you have highly trained individuals who have spent over a year in Taliban, Al-Qaeda training camps coming for the sole purpose of that Mumbai style attack? 4 to 6 man teams and 8 to 12 man teams. That's what I'm focused on right now from the law enforcement perspective of how to spin up our state, local, and federal law enforcement from a counterterrorism, how to mitigate that type of large scale team attack. And that is my personal biggest concern right now.
So, Peter, for my listeners, anyone listening who are just dispirited by all of this, who are scared, who want to plan, what would you say they should do?
Yeah, it comes down to the single concept before anything else, which we've talked about before and I talk about in all public speaking, which is you need to accept that evil is real. If you can't look back at these church attacks, school attacks, and identify that as pure evil, somebody willing to kill innocent people for whatever their belief system is, I don't know how to articulate that other than evil. So starting with evil is real, then realize that you are your own first responder. By that I mean, Michigan was 30 seconds. First officer on scene was about 30 seconds. That's what initial reporting suggests. If that changed, we'll talk about it. But let's say that the initial reporting is accurate, that the first officer was on scene within 30 seconds, which is phenomenal. I mean, that's brilliant. Yeah. Well, the attacker wasn't stopped until 8 minutes later. So it's reasonable to say that there was about 9 to 10 minutes from the time the attack started to the time that the threat was stopped. The point is, what are you going to do in those 10 minutes for you and your family? And that could include go get Stop the Bleed training, which is an easy training course you can go take, which simply says, if heaven forbid, whether it's violence or an accident, I'm capable of increasing the survivability of people around me through Stop the Bleed. Everybody points at a gun or go get a permit to carry. If you feel called to that, please go get training. Get liability insurance. There's self-defense liability insurance because there's the incident, the gun, the ammo. That's one piece of it. It's a larger situation. If they have questions, reach out to us. But get training. Picking up a gun with no training is ill-advised at best. Then it's step up. I mean, honestly, step up. I'm going to be a little harsh. If you're going to a church and you haven't asked the elder board or the pastor or the priest, what can I do here? What do you need? And that might be giving of time, talent, and treasure. Whatever your unique skill sets are, step up, ask the question, how can I help? That also goes for your school. Ask them about their security. Hey, and not just in a sense of trying to have conflict with them to say they're not doing enough, but say, what do you need to get serious about this? And how can I help? Be part of the solution. The one piece I want to leave everybody with is we outnumber these psychopaths. The good men and women, the kids in the country, the people who want to live in peace with their neighbor outnumber these people. You have a tale of two cities. Michigan, one church had security, the capability of stopping the most horrific violence predicated against innocent people just trying to profess their faith. And unfortunately, you had one church in the same state in the same year that didn't. And the story is horrific. I don't take any pleasure in saying this, but it's the reality of what we just saw. So step up, accept that evil is real. And if you need anything, please reach out. We'd be more than happy to help.
Yeah, this is not a commercial, folks.
No.
But this is reality. We keep seeing it, and we all think, "No, never going to happen to us." Every time, Peter, every time you see the interviews afterward, this doesn't happen in our community. This doesn't happen in our community. It is happening, and you're not going to immediately, folks. There's the world as we like it to be, and there's the world as it is. Let's deal with the world as it is, and everybody's got to play a role. I just believe that. And we're kind of we're fighting the common enemy, which, as you just said, Peter, is evil, and people need to accept that. Archway Defense is where you can go. We've been showing you the website. So if you need anything, even if you have questions, Peter and his group are so good about they just want to help. You guys just want to help.
Yeah, and to that point, not a commercial. I was on another radio show a couple days ago. It was actually after the last unfortunate church attack. And for faith-based and school faith-based, we literally give away our curriculum. We don't ask anything because we know that no one company can lift this. So we give away a free PDF of how to stand up a church security and safety team. We don't want anything from it. If you want that document, it's a PDF, it's free. Take it and run with it. We don't want your money. We want you to protect your churches and schools. That's what we want.
Perfect way to end this podcast, because I always end it, Peter, saying be brave and do good. So be brave. Go to archwaydefense.com. Ask for this PDF. Be brave about it. I mean, we have to have courage about this stuff and do good. Do the right stuff. Take the right steps. This is reality. We got to live it. And maybe if we all come together in it, we can lift ourselves out of it. Peter Johnson, it's always so good to talk to you. I appreciate your time today.
As always, thanks for having me.
Hey, you can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.